Hello, Anna here at the Sewing Studio. In this video, I am bringing to you the Janome 9480 sewing machine. I'm going to talk you through all its features and functions, show you everything that comes in the box, show you how to thread it, do some sewing, show you its capabilities, and then talk a bit about the warranty and support. Now, we've split all of those into chapters, so if there's a particular section you're interested in, feel free to head straight there. So, let's get into it. The Janome 9480 sewing machine is a computerized machine, and it's got a very generous 11 inches of space to the right of the needle. It's got lots of great automatic features. First one being automatic tension, and it also has automatic presser foot pressure. So it detects the thickness of the fabric that you have under the foot and adjusts itself accordingly just to make life easier for you. You can also adjust that manually if you want to. You've also got an automatic thread cutter and an automatic built-in needle threader. Really easy to use, and I'll show you that when we get to the sewing section. So this machine has got 400 different stitch options, and they're all in this touchscreen navigation here. Conveniently, they are all listed in the lid of the machine as well, so you can very easily see which stitch you require and where to go to bring it up on the machine. There's 11 different styles of one-step buttonhole in there and lots of different types of stitching, including tapering stitches, decorative stitches, quilting stitches, all things like that. There's 4 different fonts, and one of them is in a block capital. The maximum width on this machine is 9mm, so they do come out quite nice and big for an alphabet font. You can also change the width of the stitch up to 9mm, and you can also change the length of the stitch on the dial there, and the longest length that you can achieve is 5mm. So as it's a computerized machine, you can operate it with the foot pedal, but it does also have a start-stop button. It's lit up in a nice fancy blue for you there. And you also have speed control here. So you can go from low, medium to high, and then the highest speed on this machine is just over 1,000 stitches per minute. You've got your reversing lever, your locking stitch, needle up, needle down. Also has, has an automatic presser foot lift as well, another automatic feature. So when you stop sewing, you can program it that the needle stays down and your presser foot comes up. So you can just quite easily pivot and then carry on sewing. Don't worry, I will show you that when we get to the sewing bit. The presser foot has the extra high lift with the lever in the back, so you can get any bulky items in underneath. And it also comes with a knee lift, which plugs into the front of the machine, so you can lower and raise the presser foot with your knee lift, so you can keep your hands on the work. Really good for turning corners and things. The feed dogs are Janome 7-piece feed dogs, so there's lots of teeth there that are grabbing hold of the fabric, so you really feel like you're under control to get those straight seams. They can be dropped as well for any kind of Freemotion work. This machine comes with 3 different needle plates, and they're very easily changed just with one lever here. We'll use a couple of them when we do the sewing, so again, I'll show you that at that time. And the bobbin drops in the top here. And then you've got the easy set, so there's no need to drop the bobbin thread, you can just start sewing. As I've half taken this off, you've then got your free arm there for sewing hems, cuffs, things like that. And then there's storage in the front and the back of this part for all the accessories and feet that come with the machine. Now, those comprise of the standard presser foot that you'll find already on the machine when it arrives, a zipper or piping foot, one for overcasting, blind hem, rolled hem, 2 clear view feet, one's closed toe, one's open toe, and 2 1/4-inch feet, one with a guide, one without. You've got a button sewing foot, and then your one-step buttonhole with a stabilising plate. There's a few options for Freemotion, so you've got your traditional darning feet there, either a closed toe or an open toe. And then because this machine has the electronic presser foot function, you also have these which hover. So you've got a closed toe, an open toe, a wide one for thread painting, and then one for echo quilting. You also have a ruler work foot and Janome's AccuFeed foot, which is their superior walking foot system. And as I mentioned, it comes with a couple of other stitch plate options. So you've got a straight stitch plate and an HP plate with the narrow foot and the narrow AccuFeed foot, along with a range of accessories, and also Janome's accurate stitch regulator with different soles in there, and we'll be using that in the sewing section. And you have a comprehensive instruction book, the knee lift, your foot pedal, and then you also have a side cutter pedal, so you can control the automatic cutter with your foot, and also the power lead, which is plugged into the machine. Lastly, there is a large extension table that sits on the side. I will be using that in a bit, and then a cover that goes over the top. I'm going to show you how to get this threaded and show you how impressive this machine is to get all those projects done, and done really well. So to thread the machine, you just want to pop your spool on the spool pin and then add a cap on the end to stop it spinning off. Grab a tail, and then everything is numbered for you. So you just go around number 1, round 2, down and around number 3, in the take-up lever number 4, down into number 5, and then the number 6 is always just above the needle there, always a last guide. And then for the needle threader, you want to make sure the needle's in the right place. So use the needle up, needle down button to send it down and back up again, and then you know that's in the right place. And then you just want to lay the thread in underneath there, up over, and cut it off on the cutter, and then send the lever down, back up, and look at that, it's threaded for you. How easy is that? And then for your bobbin, you want the tail of thread to the left, just push that to the side and the cover pops up. Drop that in, and then you're taking it under this lip here, which in turn is sending it under that lip there, as that's what sets the tension. So drop that in around, and then this is the easy set, which again is numbered. So you're going around number 1, number 2, in like that. Now, as I said, if you lay your thread in there, you don't need to draw up the bobbin thread. You can if you want to, but you absolutely don't have to. If you want to do it, just do it as you would normally. So drop the needle, bring it back up again, little tug, and then your bobbin thread comes up to the top. So then, when you first switch the machine on, it will default to the standard straight stitch. So the way you navigate this screen is that everything is separated out into folders, if you like. So these are all your basic kind of utility stitches in here. And then if you go across to here, you can see you've then got applique stitches, cross stitch, heirloom quilt, quilt styles, satin stitches, bridge, decorative. We could go on and on, to be fair. Some words that are already in there, mirage. Oh, created stitch there. I forgot to say earlier, actually, that it does come with a CD. That is a stitch composer, so if the 400 stitches that are on the machine aren't enough, you can create your own as well. So that's all the more decorative type. Then you've got your different fonts, tapering stitches, and then these are sewing applications, which I'll come to when we do a bit of Freemotion. So standard straight stitch then. I'm going to show you the different speeds, and I'm also going to show you this pivoting function. So as it's got the electronic presser foot, it will automatically raise for us. So to get it to do that, we want to press this button here, which is the pivoting function button. I struggle to say that. So you drop the presser foot and drop your needle in. So I'm not using the foot pedal, I'm just using the start stop button, and I'm on the slow speed. So I'm just going to start sewing. When I want to reverse, I go back as far as I want to, take my finger off, and then I come forward again. So that's slow speed, up to midway, and then up to high. If you keep your finger on the button, it slows right down and you can just stop. Now you'll see I've stopped, the needle stayed down and the presser foot has come up slightly. So I can now just pivot and go again. I can pivot and go again. You get the idea. Going wonky because I'm trying to do it with one hand so you can see what I'm doing. But this is really good as well if you're chain piecing or something like that, where you can quite easily just pop the next one in and the next one in without having to touch anything else. So let's chop the threads off. And that's the straight stitch. Now that's obviously using the reverse to secure your straight stitch. There is another way that you can reverse it, and that's with the locking stitch button here. So let's go down this row here so you can see. So if I drop the needle in, I'm going to press this one first and then start sewing. And it just does 3 stitches on the spot, so that's secure now. So I can carry on. Press the locking stitch button to stop. Again, it does 3 stitches on the spot, and that's nice and secure. And you can see then that you've just got a single stitch either end rather than the bulk of reversing. This button has a second function as well, and that is a pattern end. So if you're sewing one of the more decorative stitches, so let's have a look. So many to choose from. As I say, the stitches are all in here, but sometimes when you just want to see which ones that you want, they're in there. Oh, this one's got washing symbols on. I love that for quilt labels and things and stuff. Anyway, let's do some cats. Let's have a little cat. So that's in the animal section. And stitch number 2. So if I go into here and then find animals, there we go. And then I'm going to have the put a cat. I'll just do a few up here. So you'll notice that time when I pressed the locking stitch button, it didn't stop sewing instantly, it carried on. And that's because it was finishing a complete cat in this instance, so the last part of the pattern. So you see you've got 3 complete animals there. It's not stopping it here when we guess where we're stopping, and it's just really good to get those professional results. You can mirror image these character ones as well. So if I press that one, you can see the stitch turns the opposite way around. It will then move its tail the other way around. So if you wanted to do a border with that pattern or something like that, it's perfectly doable. So let's take a quick look at the fonts. So let's choose, I don't know, let's go for Broadway. I would have always liked to be in the theatre, so let's go for Broadway. So nice and simple to type these in. You can see they're just here. So J, go across, no. Oh yeah, up here, look, I'm forgetting to toggle between uppercase and lowercase. So you've got your J, I'm just going to type out Janome, N-O-M-E. And it brings it down here for you so you can see what you've got there. If you need to do a space, you can just use one of these and then carry on writing. And then to clear those, because I don't want to do those, I was just doing a test, you just press delete for as far back as you want to go. So stitch that out. So I can see that's not actually come out as clear as what it would on some other Janome machines that I've used. And that's because I'm not actually using the right foot. So on the screen as well, it will tell you which foot to use. So I should have used foot F, which is the clear view foot. And the reason being, this has a piece cut out the bottom to deal with the levels of the density of the stitches. So if I just snap that one off, and pop this one on. I'm also going to slow it down slightly because it gives it a chance to do it neater. You could also put some stabiliser under it. And let's just go again. And that looks a lot neater. It's sitting straighter, it's not puckered as much, and the letters are clearer. So for the one-step buttonhole, you need the buttonhole foot, which is this one here. Now the stabilising plate is for if you're sewing something thick. So you would pop your thick fabric, let's turn it around the right way, thick fabric in underneath there, and then pop the foot on top of that and pop it in the machine. And that just helps to keep the thick fabric stable. You know, if you're making a wool jacket and you're doing buttonholes down the placket, it helps to keep it stable. I'm only using cotton, so I don't need the plate. So I'll take that off. And then what you want to do is pop your button in the back here and clamp it down. And then snap on the foot at the front. I'm just going to use the extra high lift to get that underneath. Wiggle that into position. There we go. And drop the presser foot. Not quite. There it goes. And then the next thing you want to do is get this thread down in under the foot. And the easiest way to do that is to just drop the needle in, drop it out again, and then gently tug on the fabric. And you can pull that out underneath. So I'm using cotton, so we'll just use the standard buttonhole, and it's reminding us here to pull down the buttonhole lever. Now this is a lever that's just behind the needle threader. You just want to pull that down so it sits behind that piece of the foot there. And that's how it knows how big to make your buttonhole for the button that you've got in the back. And it'll always do it a couple of millimetres bigger so that your button can get in and out of the hole. You might want to put a little mark on your fabric of where you want it to start, and then you can line that up between these red lines in here. And then drop the presser foot down. Again, I always sew about midway for a buttonhole. It looks much nicer. That done, and there is your lovely neat buttonhole. That's the top and that's underneath. If your button is too big to fit in this, there is also a memory buttonhole here, so you can program the 4 stages of your buttonhole just once to the size that you need it, and then once you've set that, you can then sew as many as you like. Let's have a look at some different types of fabric. So we'll go for some stretchy fabric first. So let me pop a jersey needle in. These just take standard universal needles. Obviously the best quality you can afford is always the best way to go. It gives much nicer result and doesn't tend to break and cause any damage to the machine. Well, hey, one nice smooth action. Let's pop the standard foot back on. So just put those away. I have some very curly jersey fabric here. So I'm going to choose the triple straight stitch, and I can see that this is back in the utility stitches. So I'm in there already, so I can go back up, and there it is there, number 5, the triple straight stitch. I might make the stitch slightly longer just because it is so stretchy, and it's very easy to do with these dials. So you've got your stitch width here and your stitch length. You can also press them on here, but I just find it easier to do on the dial. Let's go up to 3. That's okay. Better secure those. And that's your nice, neat stretch stitch. Oh, this fabric is so curly, but it's sitting nice and flat and you can stretch the material with it. And the seam is lovely and secure. And then on the thicker side of fabrics, let's take a look at some denim. So I'll grab a jeans needle, pop that in, and there we go. I will never get tired of that. It's so easy, so easy. Just pull that through a bit. Okay, so there's absolutely no stretch in this denim whatsoever. It's just thicker, obviously, than what we've been using. So I'm going to go back to the standard straight stitch, and again I'm going to increase the stitch length because it's a thicker material. 3.2, let's try that. And that's sewn through that really well. This machine's got a powerful motor in it, so it has extra needle penetration to get through these thicker types of fabric. That's the underneath, nothing skipped, and it's nice and secure. And go through 4 layers. Again, no problem at all. So I'm going to double that over again and go through 8 layers. And this time actually I am going to make one slight adjustment, and that is to increase the stitch length just slightly again. I'll go up to 4 this time, and that's only because it's a lot thicker, so the stitches will sit on the top rather than kind of sinking into the fabric. Use the extra high lift to get that underneath. Drop the needle in. And yeah, no problem at all. So the 8 layers is this seam here. Again, nothing skipped, and the seam is really secure. So when it comes to patchwork, there's a couple of different ways that you can achieve a 1/4 inch. So you've got your standard sort of snap-on 1/4 inch foot with a guide, and you would choose the stitch in the quilting section here, number 2 there, which is a 1/4 inch stitch, and that'll put it in the right position for you. But there is also, I was talking about the HP plate and the HP foot. There it is. So this foot as well, if you line up with the very edge of this foot, you can get a scant 1/4 inch. And this foot is also really good for when you're sewing triangles, which is why I've got this here, to sew right from the very edge. So let me show you a minute. So let's change the needle plate. So I'll pop that off first. As I say, it's just a one action, so you just flick that and up it comes. And that's really helpful. There's no screws or anything to have to navigate, so it's easy to keep clean and maintain your machine. I'm just going to take that bobbin out a minute. And then when you're putting it back in, you've got 2 lugs on the side here, and you just pop them in, and there's a circle there that you push down on. Before I do that, I'll just show you, the machine is with you the whole time, so it's telling you there that the needle plate is not secure. And when I put that in, it's then asking me to make sure the proper presser foot is attached, which is this one here, or, oh, I haven't got it out, but there was the dual feed narrow one as well. So it's just those 2 that you use with this foot. So I'm just going to grab the screwdriver, because this foot goes on the presser foot bar. Let's move those out the way. Just slots on there, and you can just do it back up. I'll just do, whoops, one final turn. There we go. I'm going to pop a universal needle back in because I don't need the jeans one, and then I'll just pop the bobbin back in. There it goes. And then you can pop that back on. So what this foot does is it isolates just to one side of the feed dogs. So your fabric is picked up by the teeth from the very edge here. So I'm just going to pop this in where I want to sew it. Try and line my edges up. we go. So I'm going to drop that in, pop that in, drop the presser foot down. Oh, that's because it was asking me to make sure, so it won't let me go any further until I know I've got the right foot on there. So I can clear that because I know I'm good. And you'll see there's not so many stitch options on here now, and that's a safety option because you've only got a narrow foot and a small hole in there for the needle to drop down into. So if you accidentally forgot and chose a zigzag, needle's going to come over here, hit the plate, hit the foot, break, and give you a fright basically, but could also cause damage. So I'm just going to pop this in there and drop my presser foot. And then, as I say, if you're lining up from here, then you're sewing a scant 1/4 inch all the way along. And you can see how I was able to sew right from the very edge and off the very edge as well. I know when talking to customers, it's quite a frustration with a lot of machines that when you try and do that, you either have to use a leader or you've got to start quite a way onto the fabric. Much easier. It's also really good when curtain making, you know, just to go at those higher speeds because you actually have more control under the foot. It's good for if you're doing, you know, turning, if you're doing a bit of a plique or something like that. Really, really helpful because you're not clamped down by all of these teeth that are there. So let's pop that needle plate off. Ta-da! And then I'm going to pop the straight stitch plate on. So the difference between the straight stitch from the standard plate has the widest hole, so you can sew every single stitch that there is in the machine. The straight stitch plate has 3 separate holes, so if you're sewing in the centre, left or right position on a straight stitch. And again, it's quite good if you're going at high speeds, doing something quite intricate, because if you do get a bit of a problem, the wide hole can pull quite a bit of fabric down into it, whereas these don't tend to do that. So we're going to move on and do a bit of free motion. So I always like to use the straight stitch plate for that. I nearly didn't say that right then. So I'll take that one off. Pop that in. There we go. So we could choose the standard hopper foot that will hop as you're going, but as I say, because it's got the electronic presser foot, they have snap-on versions as well. So I've got the closed toe one here, so I will show you this. Let me just screw that up. And then these snap in, so they slot in the back first. Hang on. So you just want to slot it in there and then drop. Oh, again, I keep forgetting, because I changed the plates, making sure we've got the right presser foot. Yes, drop that down and that's snapped on. So you can see it's slightly raised at the back now, which gives you less clampage, that's not a word, but less clamping of the material when you're trying to move it. There's less foot that is touching it, and it gives a nicer result. So I'm going to pop the extension table on, and that just sits on there like that. Now I can see that's too low, so they have adjusters on them. So in the sewing applications, which is this t-shirt symbol here, these are different principles that we tend to use quite often, and by using these, the machine will use its automatic features to set itself up to what we need. So in the first section you have all different sewing ones, and then in here you've got all different quilting ones. So I want to do some free motion, so I'm going to go into there, and it's reminding me to lower the feet dogs, and there's a lever on the side here where you can lower them. It knows I've now done that, so that's automatically disappeared. And then you've got some different options depending on what you want to do. So you've got a straight stitch with the needle in the middle position, straight stitch with it in the left position, and these use the hopper style feet. You can see it's telling you down here, the hopper style. I'm using the ones that are static, so they don't move, they just hover above the fabric. So I need to go for straight stitch 3. It's reminding me to make sure the proper presser foot is that, and you can see the options have changed to the closed toe and the open toe, and I've got the open toe one on there. So I don't need to do anything else because it's done it all for me. Let's go that way. So I'm going to draw up my bobbin thread. She says. There it is. drop my needle back in, drop my presser foot, that'll be okay. Now I'm going to go about there for speed for me. I might need to adjust that, but we'll see when we start going. And then I'm just going to make a start. I like to stop at that point and just move these out the way and snip them off. There we go. Okay, so I need to be a little bit faster. Now my individual stitches are not too bad, but I can see there are some irregularities in terms of the length, and that's because of the speed that I'm moving the fabric to the speed that the needle's going up and down. Now Janome have developed their accurate stitch regulator, which is designed to avoid that. So let's get this out and see how it works. I've not used this before, so bear with me and we will discover it together. So let's take this off. And pop this on. Let's have a look. Okay, so it must go that way. In there like that. So there's a slot in the back that it plugs into. And then you'll see this ASR, so accurate stitch regulator, is then highlighted. So you can press on that one and it's now in the right mode to use the stitch regulator. Drop the presser foot and the needle down and let's see. Wow, hang on, let me cut these off. So what it's doing, before I have the noise of the machine again, is you'll notice the slower I sew, the slower the needle goes up and down. The faster I go, the quicker it goes. And a red light came on and it beeped because it's basically saying you're going too fast. Your stitches are going to look terrible. So let's go again. So if I go slow, the machine is sewing slow. If I speed up, too fast. It's kind of teaching you a good speed as well for the machine. Appreciated they don't look as good as this, but as I say, it's the first time I've used the stitch regulator. My stitches are much more regular in terms of the individual length, which is what it's ideal to do. It's like everything, it'll take a bit of practice to get used to, but it's a really, really good piece of kit. So let's take a look at the dual feed foot. So I'll take this one off. And we'll unplug it from the back and then pop this one on. So this piece here slots into the back of the machine, just there, and then come around and screw it on the bar again. Final turn on that. Yes, I have the proper presser foot, thank you very much. So I want to go back to my standard stitches. Got the right presser foot, and then I'm going to press this symbol here, which is in the dual feed mode. So again, it's asking me to make sure the proper presser foot is attached, which it is, and then I have my stitches that I can choose from. And this foot has teeth underneath, so it interlocks kind of with the teeth at the bottom there. Oh, I better raise those back up, and they are, so we won't be going anywhere. And it's really good for like quilt sandwiches, so the layers don't shift. If you're doing anything with like oilcloth or vinyl or something like that, or something quite slippy and tricky to sew, it really does help to keep the layers together and stop that shifting in there for you. So just drop it down and make a start. And you can see these teeth are feeding along the top as well. Just secure those. There's no puckering, it's all flat and it looks really nice, both top and bottom. And there's also a handy quilting guide as well, so it slots into the foot there. And then if you're just doing straight line quilting, you can then get an equal distance between your lines of stitching. So if you wanted them at, say, 3/4 of an inch, I've got my 3/4 of an inch mark on my needle plate there, so I can line that up with that. And then what you want to do is don't pay any attention to the needle. You're watching this against your previous line of stitches. So if I drop that down, so again, excuse me, don't watch that and watch down there. And you can just carry on down your rows. So in the quilting stitches down here, you've got this nice zigzag stitch. So again, if you wanted to get your consistent space between, watch this. And I tend to kind of run down, by eye admittedly, but run down the middle of this stitch. And again, you've got your nice consistent distance between your lines, but it's a wavy line rather than your straight line. So this machine comes with a 2-year warranty. You can extend that to 5 years if you want to. And in the box, you'll find this card that explains all that to you. And don't forget, we're here at the Sewing Studio for anything that you might need. Now, I hope you love this machine as much as I do and are impressed with all its features and functions and everything that it can do. If so, head over to our website and grab yours now. Delivery's fast and it's free. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.